the idea that you would come up to me when I was younger and say, hey, you know that conflict that's been going on since Moses had a parting of the ways with the Pharaoh? We're going to stop it. How? We're going to put up tents and threaten not to go to class. It's like the Israeli military. Hey, they have a very aggressive drum circle in Harvard Square. Let's wrap it up. What the fuck? You know.
Bryan Callen, welcome
Hi.
to my podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming over here.
Looking at my brand new shirt, and I feel like it's a little tight, but I feel good.
Nah, you're pulling it off.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay,
Good.
so you came over from LA. Well, before we get into anything, can you give a brief background about who you are and what it is you do for anyone who doesn't know?
I get in trouble. I get paid for what I got in trouble for my whole life in school. I'm a professional jackass. I do stand-up comedy, and that challenge never goes away. And I guess I studied acting in earnest, and I've done a lot of acting as well. But in many ways, I've never been on a set where I didn't want it to be over. But I've never, so if you said you can never act again, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But if you told me I could never get on stage and do stand-up again, I would die, because I think that to my core is who I am. Okay. And it took me a long time to admit that to myself.
So you didn't enjoy Hollywood. You've been in movies, right? A number of them.
Yeah, and TV shows. And, I did a wonderful show, The Goldbergs, for, I think, 6 years. And then I had my own show called Schooled. And I was an original cast member of MadTV. And I've done all this stuff, But it was always the piecemeal waiting around. You shoot a script in chunks, in pieces. Mm-hmm. And I think that was always, my temperament maybe doesn't really mesh with that process. You've got to be, if you look at people like Meryl Streep or Daniel Day-Lewis, these people that can hold a character for a long time and then hold an emotion and release that emotion in a short little window when the cameras and lighting is just so and just ready. And when you're listening to somebody else, and that is such a peculiar skill set. It's a very, very, it's not that it's impossible to do, but you almost have to be in love with this meticulous process. It's probably a little bit like, I wonder if it's something like calligraphy, or Japanese one brush stroke painting. It's a very peculiar,
to perfect that one
it's
thing.
A laser beam focus of energy, So when you watch Meryl Streep, if you know how movies are made, what's more astonishing is that they're able to do that way with that intensity for such a short period of time, and then pull back and then do it again from a different angle, and then do it again, and that was something that I never found satisfying. But telling a story on stage that you've written, that's original to you, that resonates emotionally with you, and that's probably a better way of saying that is when it resonates with some inner truth. For who you really are, and then you watch it work. You watch an audience get moved by it. That's incredibly satisfying.
Well, that's not acting anymore, right?
I don't think
right?
so. You probably acting. So acting is the interpretation, right? So you'll see a song, and then you'll have one person sing the song, then another person will sing the song, and it sounds very different because they're interpreting the song on their own tempo, their own rhythm, their own pauses, and I think acting is the same way. You bring to the script your interpretation of that character, but stand-up is yours. You've written it. You're doing it, and it's do or die, and so it's insanely personal.
Was it painful to get started? Like, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, it was painful.
Very.
Well, it was painful. The first part of the pain was admitting to myself that I had to do it, right? So it was admitting to myself that if I didn't do it, I was going to be generally dissatisfied over the entire course of my life, right? And then the largest fear was regret. What if I don't go for it?
Yeah.
And then the second part of the fear and pain came from the idea that, well, what if I actually go for this? First of all, is it for me? Who do I think I am? Me? You want me to be a stand-up comic? I don't know. I mean, I was funny with my friends, but I have no idea how to put that into form.
Yeah.
And then you take that leap of faith. And I think when you do something like that, I remember I remember saying, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to be an actor, and I'm going to try to be a stand-up comic. I was dating Patty Jenkins. You know who she is? She wrote and directed Monster and Wonder Woman.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we dated for 9 years. And she, of course, she's my dear friend, but she was also my friend, and she really understood me. And she said to me, I made a speech at a wedding, and she said, Bryan, you're the funniest person any of us know. I got 3 words: stand-up comedy. Stop trying to be a brooding actor. You're not Christopher Walken. You're not Robert De Niro. You are a jackass. You are a clown. And she was one of the first people to say that's my masculinity. Stop trying to be a tough guy. You're not a tough guy. You're a jackass. And that's a masculine quality in its own right. And so that she was the first person to sort of give me permission and recognize that my timing is what it is.
So then with comedy, I was opening for my dad for a couple of shows, and he goes, "You're funny. You should try stand up." And I said, "Women aren't funny, so that's not going to work." And I have no idea, like, does something funny happen to you and then you're like, I can put that into a bit?
No. So I think women are funny. So Eliza Schlesinger is an example of somebody who I think is a killer, and I've been watching her forever. So some people, there are definitely women out there that are hilarious. It's just like Roseanne Barr and things like that.
Oh yeah.
And I think the reason they're funny, Eliza's a different animal, but like there are comics. I think to be a funny comic, actually, you have to start with. I always say, start with the personal questions. Who am I pretending to be? Who do I want to be? That's a big one. What do I honestly revere? What am I actually afraid of? And what do I do about that? How do I want to die? How do I not want to die? What do I hope I say when I die? What do I hope I don't say when I die? These are really the questions that you that you can reflect on, and then you'll find a funny answer a lot of times. I do. I mean, I just think it's hilarious that I still want to be a Spanish dancer. That's hilarious, and I never will be. And I want everything. I want to be able to do a backflip. I want to be able to ride a stallion without touching its mane, just by controlling it with my inner thighs and my taint. That's a real goal. It's never going to happen, but I mean, it's so stupid to even say that. I want to be a guy who's connected to his horse, where I can be like, and my horse just shows up. That's hot. I want to rear up on a horse. I've never reared up on a horse while rescuing a bunch of, I don't know, women who their plane crashed in the Amazon, and I came up with bags of food and maybe some booze. I don't know. So these are all my ridiculous fantasies that are grounded in some form of reality. And so I sometimes I'll just say that stuff and people are laughing. Sometimes I'll just literally talk about, I was talking about how much my next special, I think the title of my next special is going to be False Gods. And it's because because of what I see on Instagram, on everybody selling you something. The only person who I find refreshing on Instagram happens to be your father. Everybody else is selling longevity. They're selling, if you want to make money, you want to make $100,000 a month. Well, you're thinking small. You should be making $1 million. All you got to do is remember these 3 things and never do these 5 things. And it's just selling me shit over and over again. And that's the stuff I write about. Because one day I was like, I didn't even know where to place my energy. I was just like, this is soul numbing. And I feel like I'm howling silently at the moon. And so put it into your work. And so I literally got up on stage and I started talking about that, and people loved it. Or the protesters.
Oh my gosh. Did you hear what happened today? I don't know if you saw this on the news. Ali Khamenei from Iran tweeted out support for the university protesters and said, you guys are on the right side of history.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Well, Iran has its fingerprints all over the Hamas, the October 7th thing. That's according to multiple sources.
Yeah.
So nobody's talking enough about Iran's role in October 7th. My thing is just whoever is talking to these, again, this is what I thought was funny, and I did it. I released it as a clip, but it was like the idea that you would come up to me when I was younger and say, hey, that conflict that's been going on since Moses had a parting of the ways with the Pharaoh, we're going to stop it. How? We're going to put up tents and threaten not to go to class. oh no. And then that's my joke. It's like the Israeli military. Hey, they have a very aggressive drum circle in Harvard Square. Let's wrap it up. They're not going to stop. Like, what the fuck, you know. And then I thought to myself, like, what would I do? Like, what sign would I make? My sign would say something like, it's complicated. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take a side unless you're kicking babies in the face, but...
yeah, what a ridiculous situation.
It is, but so are most things.
I went to an art school in Montreal for university, and so they were into protesting like 2011 or 2012, and there were already protests. And I remember looking outside my bedroom window, and there were just naked bikers.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a parade of naked bikers.
Really?
And I was like, yeah, it was something, I think at that point, it was something against Wall Street. And I remember just being like, you just wanted to get on a bike naked.
That's right.
They're like, because
That's right.
how are these associated? I have no idea. And what are you actually doing about it? Like, this makes no sense.
It's
like,
so-
are those people naked? They're biking. Wow.
That's so funny you say that, because I was in Philadelphia, and there were a group of women that were marching against the patriarchy, and they were holding up signs like rape culture is bad and all. And I swear to God, many of them, it was a bunch of guys that were basically, you know, gender bending, kind of like they were just the kind of guys that looked like that you could, you literally could, they were bending in the wind. They looked like what a willow would look like if it was a man. You know, they were wearing beads, and they were just aggressively anti-masculine, because of course that's too dangerous. And the women were, a lot of them were young gals they were wearing just pasties.
Yeah.
And I was like,
as protesters
tits
do.
in traffic. And I wasn't looking I couldn't focus on anything else. I was like, and all these Philly guys, like in the garbage truck, guys who work for a living, like, hey, show your tits. Hey, tits. You know, I've never seen a tits in Toyotas, bro. That's a dirty Toyota model on. I mean, they were just you weren't changing the world with your march down Constitution Avenue, where the fuck they were. So yeah. But I think part of it is also when you're young, or any time, and the world doesn't seem to be making much sense, right? And the world also seems to be so full of different kinds of noise. And when you are a young person and you're essentially an algorithm, think about what it is to be young. You know, you're young, so you would know. You've never had any privacy. You've never not been on camera. And the truth is, they do have your biometrics. They do have your data. So you are worth really what you can buy. And so they know who you are. They know who you're pretending to be, who you want to be, who you are, who you really are. That they know what you like and what you don't like. They can program you to hate something and program you to love what they have for sale, right?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of kids know that. And when you grow up that way, I mean, trying to feel unique when you are literally a number. They have your genome. They have everything. It must be very, very difficult to feel somewhat mysterious, somewhat like an individual. There are no walls. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to be. Maybe, you know, because when you're young, you're really trying to negotiate a sense of individuality. You want to be unique. You want to be different. So maybe I'll grow a beard and wear a dress. I'll do anything. I wonder sometimes if that's part of what we're dealing with.
Hello out there, internet people. Something I don't talk about a ton is the amount of blood work I've had done over the years trying to optimize my health. Believe it or not, it's not just me testing foods out on myself. I've also done liters of blood work. I've partnered with Marek Health, a telehealth company with extremely competent doctors for health optimization. I seriously recommend these guys. Hormones are completely out of whack in most people, and bioidentical hormone therapy can be super life-changing, but you don't have to go that far. My first suggestion is to optimize your diet and lifestyle, but I'd also suggest doing blood work and talking to Marek Health. Marek Health offers in-depth hormone panels as well as a ton of other blood work. A lot of the blood work you get tested at regular doctor's offices doesn't go in depth properly. And if you're going to try to optimize hormones, you definitely want someone treating you who knows what they're doing. The doctors that work with Marek are very in the know about lifestyle optimization, can prescribe hormones, peptides, high quality vitamins, supplements, etc. I use them for blood work. My dad uses them, my brother uses them, my husband uses them. They do your blood work and then thoroughly explain the markers and suggest treatments. If you want to try the same hormone panel I've had done, you can check them out at marekhealth.com/Mikhaila. So many people have hormone problems nowadays that could be fixed with some supplements or hormone therapy, diet, lifestyle, of course, and they could feel so much better. So check them out at marekhealth.com/Mikhaila, code MP for 10% off at checkout. They're pinned in the description as well. They're the only telehealth company I trust at the moment to give you a doctor that's going to treat you properly. Enjoy the rest of this episode.
And I don't even think this is conspiratorial, but I probably believe a lot of conspiracy theories. But I feel like TikTok is to blame for so much of the propaganda nowadays. And after anything dramatic happens, my algorithm, which is pretty coded to be like, honestly, it's pretty clean, not that interesting content. That's what I've kind of programmed TikTok to be. But after, say, like the Israel-Gaza situation, it was flooded. And it looked to me like propaganda. That's what it looked like to me. And a bunch of my friends who are probably kind of middle of the line, they're not super liberal, but they're not conservative, like from downtown Toronto, were horrified by what they were seeing on TikTok. And I was like, yeah, but that's all you're being shown. Like, you're not just seeing what's real, you're being shown something. And it's obvious. And nobody I talked to knew that they were being shown information. They just thought that's what the information was that was available. So it was like, how, like, I don't know, these people, they get stuck in like loopholes on TikTok that are either like gender stuff or a war. Yeah. I feel like they're too young. I feel like they don't actually think outside what they're seeing. I don't even know if they're aware of it.
Yeah, I think that part of it is that persuasion technology where your brainstem is going to go to those images and that 15-second clip that changes your whole day because it hits you right where you live.
Yeah.
When you see a child being pulled from rubble
or
whatever it might be. And that to me is the largest, well, there are a couple issues, but I think one of the things I worry about is that you are now rewarded for amplifying your monologue. You know, look at our political situation. You know, Tucker Carlson is famous because of that monologue he delivers. He's not famous because of an actual discourse with somebody who has a nuanced pushback. There's no money in that. There's no clicks in that. There's what you want to do is get on something like Joe Rogan and state your entire world thesis with no pushback. Look at Terrence Howard, an actor who comes on Joe Rogan and says, I've invented my own math and black holes don't exist. Really, Terrence? That's amazing. So we'll just throw away all the science, the 300 years of math that came before you, the great actor who in his spare time somehow invented a new math and has decided that black holes don't exist and that 1 × 1 is 0 or something like that. Cool, bro. But listen, we're all talking about it. He gets a lot of attention. And more importantly, there are a whole bunch of people that go, maybe he's right. Since I don't know anything about theoretical math or physics, maybe he's right. And so that's where the money is. That's where the eyeballs are. And if you are, for example, a nutritionist or a pseudo-nutritionist and you want to sell stuff, then tell people that a cold plunge and raw honey and berries and shilajit will cure everything, including that everything is a metabolic disease. And I know that because of all my data here. And but if you are good at speaking and if you know how to sound smart, okay, you can create these false dichotomies. There's right and there's wrong. Okay. And I always say, if you want to talk to anybody who knows shit, they use words like, I don't know, maybe, sometimes, it depends. Your dad's great at that. Do you believe in God? I don't like those questions, That's a much more nuanced question. So, and it comes down to whether or not you want to be honest. And I think there isn't a whole lot of money in honesty.
So how do you tell the difference? Is there a way?
Yes.
I mean, you can kind of, I feel like you can get it from people's vibe online, but it's tricky sometimes. I think I fall prey to that sometimes.
We all do. It's very easy to. I think the way you battle that is the old-fashioned way. You have to read broadly, and you have to, if you disagree with something, make sure you're not disagreeing based on knee-jerk confirmation bias, on emotional bias. Make sure that you actually understand the argument on the other side, and read a broad spectrum of things. So then what happens is you'll earn your opinion. Your opinion will be based on thought, not attitude, not emotion. And all of us fall prey to this. It's very easy. I don't like Kamala Harris. You know why? I don't like her. That's why. I don't like the way she comes across.
Yeah.
She seems condescending, and then I've seen clips of her word salad. That's not fair on my part. Now, I probably don't gel with her in a lot of ways politically and stuff like that, so there's that. I don't need to know too much. But I should do a little more investigation before I have this broad, sweeping dismissal of someone like that, I think. But
Maybe. But then I feel like sometimes that kind of intuitive sense about somebody is spot on. I've gone both ways. I feel like I came from a place because of who my dad is, where I gave everybody way too much benefit of the doubt.
Me too.
Way too much. Me too. It was like, oh, but their childhood was bad, or these are all the reasons behind why they're doing evil things. And then I think I got screwed over a bunch of times really badly that took like years to sort out. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. I saw that coming years in advance, but then was like, well, here are all the reasons why maybe I'm wrong, which I think is also a good outlook to have. Like, can you think of why you could be wrong about something? But then, I don't know, I've swung in the other direction, and I'm like, so now I get a bad vibe. I'm like, bad vibe, probably picking up on something that I haven't figured out yet,
well, it's so, I love that you're saying this and it's good that you're learning this now, because my friend who's a billionaire said to me, Bryan, you know what the problem with you is? We see the asshole in 5 minutes and it takes you 5 years because you think everybody is good. And it's because that's the way you see the world. And just because you see the world that way doesn't mean there are people that are just impossibly self-interested and total scumbags. That's a heartbreak, though. I don't want to live in a world like that. Maybe I don't want to face that. Maybe I just don't want to face that reality. I still have trouble with that,
I definitely grew. That's something I've been actively working on, and it's because of how I grew up with my dad. Because he told me the same thing. He said, basically, everybody's good. That's what I learned, was everybody's good. And he still thinks that. I don't think that anymore after dealing with a few individuals. And I'm like, whoa, you aren't like me. Like, you're like an alien reptile.
Your dad called it, I did a podcast once with him, and he said, there are artists of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yes, it is. It's malevolence, right? It's what he talks about. That's always so disconcerting. It's just such a, Rogan said something to me. We were talking about somebody that we knew, and he said, please, this person's now sober. And I was saying nice things about him. And he goes, do me a favor. Please don't bet on this guy. And please don't be friends with him for my sake. And I said, why? And he said, because I know how it's going to end up. It's going to break your heart, essentially. I said, man, you always seem to have a very good instinct, because he's usually right about that, right? I said, where'd you develop it? And I know I have some theories on how he developed it. But he said something so cool. He said, I spent a lot of time in pool halls playing pool and trying to get really good at pool. And you know what I learned? I learned there are born winners and there are born losers. And born losers will find a way to lose no matter what you help them with. And I was like, damn. He goes, it's a psychological trait. And I was like, that is so interesting. It's such a bummer, though, to write people off. Because then what you're saying is that you have no chance to actually truly have a transformation of the soul. And I'll still have my heart broken. I still believe in people.
Yeah.
I'd rather believe in people and look at the world as essentially a good place where people are doing their best over the other. Because the other seems to be a hard place for me to live in. It'll turn me hard and bitter, and I don't do well with that physically.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know where I stand on that. I think I do know where I stand on that. Just from when people started to be attracted to our family, you like psychopaths come out of the woodwork fast. And so from like a regular, because I had student loans in university. We didn't have very much money for a long time. I didn't have any money for a long time. I worked all the time with like various jobs and things. So I had some money and I was never worried about it, but I didn't have very much. And then the switch from that to like online fame and having a bunch of money, you get approached by people who want to be your friend. And you're like, that's kind of, but coming from the background of the average person I meet isn't just an evil person. Like it's somebody I could make friends with. Right. And I swear once you get to like a level, then the psychopaths come out and you're like, oh, there's lots of you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't know. It's just been a wild experience.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Because you guys, you guys have really hit a level of fame and even wealth that just came out of
randomly.
Like what?
Totally randomly.
Right? Your dad was this academic and teaching, he was a clinical psychologist and then just takes the world by storm. It's like, what's going on here? It must be so shocking. But I think podcasting's that way for a lot of people too.
Oh, for
sure. When I came up as a comic, you didn't make money. You made a little bit of money, but people are making $1 million a show now. Like, what are we talking about? What? But you're curating a global audience,
Yeah. So wild.
It's very interesting. It's a lot to deal with.
Yeah. It's fun though.
It is fun, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very fun.
Yeah.
You said you're working on a special. Do you know when
that's ready? So this is the part I love because right now I'm carving every detail and I'm so excited. Like I can see it coming together. It's going to be the best thing I've ever done by far. And I've done some good specials in my opinion. It's the only thing I can watch. I hate everything I do, but my last 2 specials I think I did a special on YouTube called Man Tears, which
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
and then Complicated Apes. Which was an argument against identity politics. And I like those, but this one is going to be like, I've really dilated on each bit. And I was watching Ron White, and there are 2 comics like Ron White and Sebastian. Sebastian's my friend. I don't know Ron, but I've known Sebastian forever. They're so disciplined about carving every word. There's no wasted space in any joke. It's carved out perfectly. You know how a good song has like every note and word is considered to the nth degree. And that's why your ear kind of like dovetails with it. It goes with it, and it's a wonderful surprise. And then you can, like certain songs like Kashmir by Zeppelin, they're still astonishing. Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog. There's some songs like just, that I don't care who you are, where you're from. That shit grooves. It's like, whoa, I never heard this before. And you can hear. There's some good videos on YouTube with like you get some like inner city black rapper who's never listened to like rock and roll necessarily, and he hears Stairway to Heaven or he hears Black Dog, and he's like, then they're both like, oh, what the
Yeah.
There's something universal that resonates with our auditory and psychic structures, and Zeppelin's that thing. It's this high math that you never get tired of, and that's always the quest with comedy in a weird way. Like whether you can do it or touch it, I don't know, but it's always the quest of kind of going, this definitely resonates with the zeitgeist, and when you feel it, and so the joke, the bit is just like a song. You get the perfect economy of words, the perfect tempo, the perfect rhythm, and that's it. And now it's there. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, that does make sense.
Are you thinking about doing stand-up?
Cool. I don't know. Maybe. Yesterday
yes.
I was like vaguely thinking about it. Well, I got married to Jordan and then he took over a bunch of my work and was like, you should do less. It stresses you out.
If you ever want to come on the road and just jump on stage with me, you're welcome to.
Ooh.
Anytime. For real. Just come jump on stage anytime you want.
Okay,
I'll be in Nashville.
I might have to do that.
I'm going to be in Nashville at Zanies June 14, 15, 16. I know it's really short, but you can get up and do 5 minutes. Get up and what we should do is you should start with just a story. Find a funny story and we'll add funny jokes in it. I'll teach you how to do it. So it's less intimidating and you're just getting up to tell a story.
I could do that. I have a lot of really depressing stories that are somewhat funny.
Good. Let's talk about that.
Oh, that sounds fun.
And I'll totally help you Because I know you're 100% thinking about doing it.
Why? Just because I mentioned it?
Because you're like, no,
it's
maybe,
there,
I don't think so. Yeah, it's terrifying to even mention, but I think you need to do it. And I'd be happy to be the catalyst.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take you up on that. I have to try it now.
I know how to help you with it.
Maybe I'll quit. We'll see.
No. I know what to do. We'll find a story and tell me the story. And then what we'll do is we'll find the funny and we'll expand the funny in those beats. It'll be a 5-minute story. No big deal. Just get up on stage.
Okay. So that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take you up on that.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So are you on tour now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just got back from Miami.
Zanies is fun.
I'm going to Zanies. Yeah. Zanies is great. I'll do that. And then where am I? I'm on a bunch of places. But I'll be all over. I'll be all over the map. So, let me know. I'll be in Minnesota. I'll be in Vancouver. I was just in Vancouver, but I'll be in Edmonton at the comic strip.
Oh.
That's going to be fun. Yeah. I don't know where that went. I'm doing a bunch of stuff in Canada.
That's funny. Over the summer, I hope.
No, probably fall.
Okay. That's still not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Edmonton when it's -40?
Yeah. I have. It's
an experience.
It's polar bear weather.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Like, if you work on the, it's funny. Edmonton's interesting too, because they come to laugh, but it is where you make a lot of money in the oil fields, and then you come back and drink and do all the cocaine. It was I got invited to a party with these giant Serbian dudes who ended up being a gang and ended up doing hard time and long time, which I didn't know, but I found out later on. Yeah. It was the only place I went. They invited me to this party. I'm not a drug guy. And I get there, and there's a dude shaving lines off a brick. He had a neck this thick, shark eyes, and they were calling me Eddie from the Hangover, because that's who I was. And they're calling me Eddie. And I've never seen that before. I've never seen people shaving, and then there were people in a hot tub. There was a pit bull that they couldn't let out. It was trying to get at everybody through this like door it was like a metal mesh door. It was so creepy. I was like, and then I got in my rental car and I got lost in the outskirts of Edmonton, but I'll never forget that. And there was a girl there. She was like this, she had like, it's so random. She had been at the show with those guys, and she was kind of getting tossed around, these giant guys, and she was like in this dress, and she had bruises on her thighs from what was clearly a pole or something, and lack of nutrition. I don't know what was going on. I remember looking at her, and she was doing blow and trying to talk to me, but she couldn't get her words out. And anyway, long story short, I got the hell out of there, because nothing good happens in that situation. Nothing good, right? I'm all for a party, but this was. I had shark eyes shaving blow off a brick. The main dude was no joke. Oh, then they had Molly, and they were wrapping Molly in plastic, like the plastic bags that digest, so that you can take the Molly in the plastic. And it was they were clearly big time drug dealers. And then there were all these other shady characters around, and me, and I'm being tossed around like a prop. They're like, the guy from the Hangover. It was right after like the Hangover. I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And then I found a dog, like a collie. I was trying to find the owner. It was a disaster. Anyway, sorry. I don't know where was I going? And I ran into that girl. That's what I was going to say. I ran into that girl like, I was doing a gig 3 years later. I ran into the girl. She goes, "Do you remember me?" I was like, "I don't think so." And I go, "Oh yeah, how are those guys?" And she goes, "They're all in jail." She goes, "They got busted in this huge sting by the Canadian
That's
feds."
Wild.
Yeah, they're all doing like 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
My dad told me that people who live, if you go up like further in Alberta, there's nothing to do. So there's drugs everywhere.
Yes.
Because it's like really cold. You like can't even walk outside for 6 months of the year. And there's nothing to do.
Yeah, so just get high.
Yeah. That's why they moved. They lived in Fairview, which is this tiny town that's like hours and hours north of Edmonton.
Are your parents from there originally?
Yeah, they're from Fairview.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's nothing to do. My parents are both like, we escaped and we made it.
Oh my, no sun?
Yeah.
Which is really bad for you.
Yeah. Although there's sun, there's no sun, and then there's lots of sun.
There is?
Oh, yeah. In the summer, it almost doesn't set. It's crazy. It's so far north.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they put aluminum foil on the windows in the summer so you can sleep.
That's so
It's
crazy.
miserable. Yeah, I went there. I've been there twice. Once when it was -40, And I went outside and like couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh, this is what -40 is like. And then the summer when there were tent caterpillars, and there was a tent caterpillar like storm. And so the roads were slippery with caterpillars.
What?
It was disgusting.
Well, that's, by the way, and there are mosquitoes. Like Rogan went
like big.
He went bear hunting.
Yeah.
He came back with like, I mean, he had like, it looked like somebody had shot him with a paint gun. Like he just had, the mosquito had done something to his fucking skin. And I was like, bro, I'm not doing that.
They're big.
Oh, and the brush, it's so like thick, and you'll never see the bear unless you bait him in. And then it's like, no, keep that.
Yeah. We were watching, my husband and I were watching, I think the show's called Survivor or something. And they're like, oh, we put people in the middle of nowhere where like no man has survived. And it was like 100 kilometers north of where I used to spend summers.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. I was like, they've got 8 types of biting bugs. It was horrible.
No.
Yeah. They're like, do you want to go back to northern Saskatchewan for the summer? No.
That's like I had a guy on my podcast who traversed the South Pole, the Arctic or whatever, and he was pulling a sled, and they had this shotgun for polar bears, and but he was like, maybe we should, because as you're getting closer, you have to shed weight. He's like, I don't know if we can carry this. We may not want to carry this, and plus we're so far north, we won't see any polar bears. And he goes, well, maybe we'll just keep it in case. And he turns, and behind him, a giant polar bear had been stalking him and his partner, and they were so tired and like stuff, and he just kind of turns around just to see how far they came, and he goes, oh my God. And there was a polar bear like, literally 50 feet behind him, just kind of following him. And he was like, thank God we've got the gun. And they shot the gun in the air and scared it away. But
why would you do that? He chose to do that. It wasn't like, if you don't do this, something terrible is going to happen to your family.
Because some people are into the art of suffering. That's why. And I can't imagine that. Like, it's like when you hunt mountain goats. You're way up on the mountain and you're just freezing and waiting for some goat that can see you a mile away. So there's no way you're going to get it anyway. And oh, by the way, when you do shoot it, it falls into a crevasse and you can't get it anyway. Fuck off. I'd rather go to the dentist with no Novocaine.
The only thing you get at the end of that is goat meat too. It's not even that good. Like, you won, here's some goat.
That's so funny. That's so true. I never even thought about it. You have goat meat. Yeah, somebody told me doll sheep or whatever it's called, is like the blue sheep or whatever it is you find up there is the best meat. Is it, bro? I don't think so.
No,
How different is it?
Hey guys, if you want to start biohacking or optimize your health and you haven't started sauning, you should start. I use these guys and a bigger sauna that's kind of built in at my house and have for years. Their blankets work just like a traditional sauna by making you sweat, burn calories, reduce inflammation, detox. Setting it up is super easy and takes less than a minute. You can even travel with this one. The benefits for me include a mood boost, reduction in brain fog and anxiety if I have any, and I feel relaxed but have more energy. When I was still mid-healing from mold toxicity, sauning was particularly useful. And when I was ill years ago before the Lion Diet, it really, really helped with food reactions and depression. Studies show sauning extends your life as well, possibly because of the help detoxing. It's also great for your skin. I love it. I love these guys. Boncharge ships worldwide and offers a 30-day trial and has free shipping. Head over to boncharge.com/MP and use code MP for 15% off. That's boncharge.com/MP with code MP for 15% off. Also linked in the comments and description. I hope you're enjoying this episode.
You know what's really good meat? Steve Ranella. I was hunting with him. He made me beaver.
Really?
I swear to God, he made a beaver stew. I'm going on record as saying it's the best, most tender meat I've ever had. I know it sounds crazy. I love elk. I love deer. Beaver.
Does it taste like chicken? Probably
No,
tastes like
it
squirrel.
tastes like
Have you had a
beef.
squirrel?
It
Tastes like beef?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The Native Americans lived on beaver. They ate a lot of beaver. And so
Yeah.
did wolves. So
Huh. Okay.
weird.
Well,
Random.
probably
Random.
won't try that. Maybe. We'll see. Who knows what happens in the future? Maybe beaver's on my list.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're living in LA, right?
Yeah.
What's that like? Has it gotten less crazy than it was like peak COVID? Do you think it's improving?
Yes, it has. I mean,
Okay,
well,
that's
so I was
good.
living in Venice during COVID, and it was a homeless encampment. You know, it was an absolute disaster. And I mean, you watch how quickly a society breaks apart as soon as, you know, anything like that happens, because all the services for the drug addicts and the mentally ill just dried up, and they all got on the street, and they all got together, and they all started to kind of feed their own addictions, and the amount of waste and garbage, it was so outrageous that I sold my house. I got the hell out of there and I moved, because I loved Venice, but it was so out of control. And you know, this idea behind sort of compassion and justice reform and all that stuff. It's not that the justice system is perfect, and it's not that you don't have compassion when it comes to public policy. And they know things I don't know, but whatever was going on didn't really seem to work. You know,
Yeah.
It's like Portland. I went to Portland, and it was the same thing. And it was just like, you have these drug addicts, you have open air drug markets, and you know, I don't know. I don't know how to even make sense of that problem, you know, other than to say, you're not allowed to do this here. You're not allowed to have an encampment on the sidewalk. You're not allowed to camp outside. We will create services for you where you have to come in and you have to not do drugs if we can figure out the way to get you treatment. And if we can't, then we have to confine you somehow. I'm not going to let you walk the streets and rob people. It ain't happening. And we had some crazy ideas in 2020, some crazy ideas.
That's for sure.
Yeah. And it gives you an example of how dangerous bad ideas are. And the one thing that I'm sort of optimistic about is that you have these schools with these students, and they're learning things, and when you hear them talk, they don't reflect the rest of the world. You kind of hear them talk about these things like, I have generational trauma from white men, and because I have some indigenous in me, you know, all these things you hear, or they'll talk about how gender's a spectrum and all this stuff. And all of us are scratching our heads because most of us are trying to make a living and construct a life. And you have these kids who are saying things like, if you look at the majors that these kids that they're majoring in, they don't even make sense.
Oh, it's such a scam.
They're made out of like thin air. And you
Yeah.
go, well, good luck with that, because the world's moving at the way the world is moving, and there's no place for you here. And I think what's going to happen, and what is happening, is the kids are going to realize that they've been sold a lie, and they get out from behind those very expensive walls, and the world doesn't have any use for them, and that doesn't care about them. And there are only so many authority figures you can go to after a while before you're now working at Starbucks with your very expensive degree and being very much in debt. It's a little bit like what happened to the revolutionaries of the 60s. The revolutionaries of the 60s ended up being, for the most part, broke, jobless, or full of regrets, because they couldn't apply their philosophy or their ideology at the level of detail. They just got swallowed up by the American way. And the American way is, I got to get to work and I got bills, bro. I don't have time to talk to you about whether or not I dead named John or whatever that person's name is. It doesn't have any relevance to my life. What you are is a mischievous interruption. And I don't have time for mischievous interruptions. Like, I swear to God, every time I see these kids talking about how they're trans mask / two-spirit and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, Americans we could use a light famine. Just because for the middle of the country, just for their diabetes, but for the coast, for New York and LA and those other cities, for perspective, you know?
Yeah,
it's like
a little bit of actual trauma.
Yeah, you know, it's like I was going to write this joke about that, which is like, you're not so worried, like, he dead named John. It's like, that's cool. That's really, we'll get to that in a second, but they're handing out potatoes in District 9, so I got to go fucking eat, you know? Good luck, bro. You know, you'd forget about all that stuff right quick. So, yeah, it's just a total lack of perspective.
Yeah, maybe. So I used to think that, but then if you think about what happened in the USSR, weren't they in that position and they were still ideologues?
No, it was different. It was very different, actually. So because the communist revolution came about when you really were dealing with an aristocracy and the czar, and it was a land of serfs.
But what about like 70s?
The 1970s?
Yeah, 1970s, 1980s.
Where? In
USSR.
Yeah, in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Well, I think what happened, frankly, in the 1970s and 1980s was that Russians were just tired of being hungry. I went there in 1985.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was there in 1985. I was 18 years old or 17.
Why?
My dad just took us.
Wow.
Yeah. And what was cool is I was there with a Russian speaker, a kid who was an American and Russian. He spoke the language. So I hung out with all the kids in Gorky Park. Wow. I hung out with Russian kids my age. And I really got a sense, I got to know them. I even hooked up with a girl named Svetlana. It was awesome in the Cosmos Hotel. It was the best. She was gorgeous. And we had this love affair for like 3 days. God, I think back to that. It was incredible. It was just like, and Christina liked me too. It was a weird time, but anyway, yeah. But I remember nobody would smile. There were no advertisements. But I think what happened in the Soviet Union was it became very apparent very early on that this doesn't work. That we're hungry. I want bread. You know, the revolutions start with your stomach. I mean, when your kids have no future, you can kind of deal with that. You can deal with the fact that you don't have any money. It's when you get really hungry that after a while you're like, this is, even the cop enforcing the law is hungry. Even he knows what I'm talking about. Even the military knows what I'm talking about because nobody has any nutrition. You know, that's probably why the Iron Curtain came down, because it was a lie. It doesn't work. And I think that's what we're seeing now. I think what we're seeing is probably something like the minute somebody starts stating their pronouns, we all go, that's great. I'm not going to hire you, though, because you sound sensitive. It's not that I have a problem with it. It's just that you sound sensitive and humorless and sexless. And you're going to get me in trouble for the way I speak, even when I'm being nice. So I don't like you, you know? So all I see is like, you know.
Even when I'm being nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I see entitled, humorless people, and life is too hard not to be funny. But they tried to come after us as comics. You know?
Yeah. Has that reversed? I feel like a couple of years ago, it was pretty bad. It was like, they're taking out the comics.
Yeah.
And then recently, it's been reversing, right?
Well, that Tom Brady roast was probably a good harbinger of, you know, it was like just a bunch of dudes and Nikki Glaser, of course, but a lot of guys just being really off color.
Yeah.
And
for Hollywood.
God bless Netflix for allowing that to go forward.
Yeah.
It was great.
Do you know why there wasn't a roast in a while? Were people just not agreeing to be roasted? I don't know. There was a gap.
Probably. I don't know. It's a hard thing to pull off. Netflix was like, let's try something live.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
So they'll do another one. You know, they'll do another one. Tom Brady probably is very regretful.
I've seen some videos.
Yeah. That
was brave.
Yeah, but then when they come after your family,
there's also so much family stuff to go after too. Like that should have been what he was thinking they would go after, because that's what's in the news.
He doesn't know. That's what happens when you're newly famous and you're being used as a prop in Hollywood. It's great, the attention's fantastic, but be careful. That's a false god too, and that'll tear you right down. It'll tear you right down. So, you know, it's like Jay Leno said that one time. He said, any actor who's really famous has about 6 years before they're the last one in the chair. You're the first guy in the chair for 6 years. And then, you know, for whatever reason, your movie goes out of style and, you know, you're considered, we'll get to you. You know, that's how it is.
Oof.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yikes.
Women deal with that. As soon as you stop being delicious, you know, it's really easy to kind of like no longer work. It just happens.
It's terrifying.
It just happens. Like, it's like, what? My career is over? Nobody tells you. They love you. But
No, that's very true.
Yeah.
Especially Hollywood, I think. You see some female actors, like there's some that lasted, like Meryl Streep, for instance.
Yeah.
She lasted. Who was in, she's really good. She was in James Bond. She played M. Was that Judi Dench?
Judi Dench.
Oh, yeah. She was great, too.
Yeah, she's
Those are like great actresses, though.
Those women were never sex symbols, though. They were always sort of, they were just character actors, and they were Maggie Smith and all of them. They were just great actresses who had always had they looked a little bit off. They looked not off, but they were playing your sister. They were playing not the ingenue, and so, and they were just so good at being actresses. They were so good at bringing these characters to life. So they were able to go from young to the mom, to the older sister, to the grandmother, to the matriarch and things like that. But that's far and few between. Helen Mirren's another one. She was gorgeous when she was younger.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she was in Caligula and kind of naked and what a body. I mean, she was just gorgeous but she was still able to, even within that, she was still able to be the actress in it. She was that good. So that's a very rare quality. You've got to be something special to be that good an actor. Or Timothée Chalamet. I was watching him in Dune.
Oh yeah.
That kid is the real deal. It's very hard to be that good. And nobody knows how he does that. He looks like what he's doing is easy. Just being able to brood like that, just being able to convey emotion on that subtle a way, especially with that face and that frame, that's a really rare and strange quality. It's called star power, and I don't know, you can't bottle it, but it's real. Jake Gyllenhaal has it too.
Oh, Jake Gyllenhaal's great.
Yeah, we don't even know why, but we believe everything they do. Like, I believe him. When Timothée Chalamet in Dune puts his hand into this box and he's going to feel terrible pain, and you can see it on his face. It's like, dude, there's no pain there, and you're just like, God, you're going through the pain of the ages. Like, that's a wild skill set. It's like, you ever read a great novel?
Yeah.
And the author, the author is able to, he writes 7 characters that are 1 mile deep. And you're like, how do you know human beings that well? How do you know that, Some people can just do it, I'm not that deep, Mikhaila.
What book would you recommend people read? We're going to talk about books. One book that the university protesters should be reading.
That's a really good question. That's a great question. I've read probably everything. I've read Dostoevsky. I've read the Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment. And those would not be my recommendations. They're too dense. Take too long. They'll read the Bible too long. I mean, I've read it twice, but it takes a long time, man. And then you have to have somebody to carry you through what the author is talking about. So, I think maybe the thing that's complicated about talking to the protesters is that many of them are young and idealistic, and there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe they have a bigger heart. Maybe they're more tender. Because what they are seeing is that they do know that there's profound suffering on the Palestinian side. And they're talking about the kids and the civilians that have nothing to do with Hamas and have always tried to get away from Hamas because they're a criminal organization. And so your heart is in the right place to be outraged by something like that, right? And then you have to ask, is there a book maybe that could put that into perspective, that could kind of say, I'm going to say something that is crazy to say, but I think philosophy falls short because you're going to find yourself in a circle. You're going to find, it's almost a snake eating its own tail. Because every time you read a philosophical treatise, you could have a semicolon after that. And then it could say, but how can we be sure of that? Or not? Or, here's Kant, now see Nietzsche. Or see this rebuttal, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you could do that for ad infinitum. That would be an infinite loop, right? And you'd never get closer to the truth. But maybe something like something like either the Vedanta treatise. Why the Vedanta is sort of the end of the Upanishads. It's Himalayan sage. It's sort of where Buddhism, the notion of Buddhism comes from. Okay, and that would be this. That would be something like, you're right to be outraged, and the world is a heartbreak. It's also got beauty, but the world will always be a series of opposites. Okay, I'll quote Alan Watts. If you walked into a room and tried to turn everything top side up and make everything great, you would, in turning everything top side up, the other side is always upside down. And he said something that I have not stopped thinking about in one of his lectures. Alan Watts said, any reasonable person realizes that you cannot improve yourself and you cannot improve the world. It's a pretty radical idea, right? Now hold on before we go, because I can see your dad going, wait a minute, and that's not, and me too. But the idea would be something like this. You can always encourage the angels of your better nature, right? But when you try to make the world a better place with your protest or whatever it might be, with sort of imposing your idea, you are going to get, in one way or another, a ripple effect. There will be a blowback. There will be some reaction. There will be something that you will create that will be a pushback to that. And that pushback will be something that might cause the pendulum to swing even further over in the direction you don't want it to do. Now, that doesn't mean you don't keep trying, but you have to understand that every time you try to do something, this is a better way of looking at it. This is where Zen comes in. This is where the problem of enlightenment comes in. The reason you can't improve yourself truly improve yourself, is because the part of you that wants to improve itself is the part that needs improving. It's a weird concept, but you are going to be trying to improve yourself. To what end? What does that mean? You're trying to improve yourself so that you can be better than everybody, so that you can be the enlightened sage and have people sit at your feet. It's very hard to not get out of that loop. It's why Zen masters will give you cones. Christ spoke in cones and parables in a way, but he spoke in parables. But the idea behind a cone, contemplate the sound of one hand clapping, is that it's supposed to get you out of your logical frame of mind, right? It's supposed it's supposed to shatter your notion of rationality and logic. It's supposed to get you outside of your own mind, so that ultimately you might be able to cultivate what they call sakshi, which is the witness to your body, the witness to your emotions, and the witness to your mind, which is actually very different. So it's not a Western concept. Socrates would say you are your mind. You want to go to the Isle of the Blessed and just be a mind that contemplates all day the beautiful things. But in fact, the sages of the Himalayas, the Eastern sages of, where the Vedanta comes from, the Hindu sages would say, actually you can step outside of that and you can even witness your own mind.
Yeah.
Kind of fascinating, right?
Yeah, that is fascinating. I
didn't answer your question as far as a book is concerned.
Oh, I don't know if there's one book that can help the protesters anyway. They needed an entirely different education. Yeah,
or maybe they need to understand and read the Federalist Papers and read and understand how James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, etc. solved the political problem. That Constitution is you know why the Constitution is so amazing? Do you know why it's not the piece of paper? And it was James Madison's idea that he invented. He was obsessed with the notion of faction. How do you stop a government from breaking into factions and then having a really charismatic, dangerous faction take over all the other factions, right? And we're back to the same old monarchy and problem. And he solved that problem. And so the reason that the United States, that this republic works, and the reason that the Constitution works, is not because of that piece of paper. It's because the founding fathers, probably James Madison primarily, who was 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, but an intellectual giant, he was able to figure out a way to make sure that power could never concentrate in one specific place. That is checks and balances. It was impossible to get, the minute you have a system of government where power gravitates to one person, God forbid, or one group of people, you've got Russia. You've got every other system of government. You don't want a theocracy. You want a government that grinds slowly. I'm suing you. That's being challenged in the courts. The executive is vetoing it. The Congress is screaming at each other and insulting each other with ad hominem insults. Yes. Yes. Oh, they don't get along. Exactly. I don't want our government. When I see Marjorie Taylor Greene gunking up the works and AOC screaming and they're insulting each other, I'm like, democracy is good. I love this. Keep it slow. I want my federal government, that massive behemoth, to grind at a glacial pace. You know why? Because they stay out of my business. They stay out of the individual's business. That was by design. The founding fathers would smile at that. It's when you see government actually getting along really well and pushing something forward and coming up with an idea of a world government or a world consensus, that's when we're in trouble. Be careful.
Wow. That's great. We need a course on that. Have you heard we're launching Peterson Academy? You heard of this?
Yes, and I will be a student.
I'm going to be a student.
Yeah.
We made the courses so that somebody with ADD can focus.
I think your father is a prophet and I've said this many times. I think he's a prophet in the biblical sense of the word. I really feel that way. I think he is I think he is a moral beacon, and I don't think that the fact that he resonates so strongly with so many of us is an accident. I think he's beautiful, I think he's something else, man.
Well, thank you.
Courage and I love the way he speaks about you. I've read his books and you're a huge part of his life, man.
I was a pretty biblically dramatic dying child for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Luckily, I got out of that.
Yeah, you did. You look incredible.
Thank you.
You really do, and it's really cool to see too. It's good to see you doing so well because I've been keeping tabs on you. Sort of like vicariously.
Oh, it's been bad. I was talking to my husband the other day, and I was like, I'm really fortunate. I was in the car, and I was just thinking, I was like, I'm really lucky because there were so many times when my life was headed downhill at such a speed that the fact that it didn't just end, a whole bunch of, it was crazy situations that were all headed towards complete chaos and destruction. And I was like, and now I'm here. I'm really lucky.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because, you went through physical pain. People don't realize how physically uncomfortable you must have been.
Oh, yeah. My gosh. With
and growing up with no money, probably, or not a lot of money.
Yeah, no. I mean, like I said, I worked. I started working in grade 5. It was delivering newspapers in grade 5. Wow. I had my first garage sale in grade 1. So I've been working forever with different jobs and things, but not enough, minimum wage jobs while you're in school. So you don't have very much money.
What a gift.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It also for people who don't have those terrible jobs where you're on your feet waiting tables at a restaurant that doesn't work very well and the food's not very good and everyone's mad at you. And those are you're burning yourself with coffee all the time because you're hungover. Those were my jobs.
Damn.
Or working at a skating rink or something like that.
Wow.
I feel it makes money more valuable too when you start making it because you're this was hard for a long time.
Well, I was eating, there's an amazing restaurant here in Arizona called Lux Central. Have you ever eaten there? It's a coffee place, it's a breakfast place, but it's also dinner. It's awesome. Go there if you ever want great coffee and just great. Well, do you drink coffee? Yeah.
Does it have steak?
They have steak.
Oh, there you go.
Strip steak. And I had a strip steak this morning, and I was eating that strip steak, and it was so good because everything they make is so good, and drinking this incredible espresso that they roast right there, and I was I take those moments sometimes, and I feel like the luckiest person in the world, or I look at my kid who's 2, and I'm just it takes me out of myself.
Yeah.
And I'm no matter what, I love that practicing of gratefulness. Do you do that a lot, right?
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Do you feel like you get better at it?
Yeah, better at yeah,
So what do
definitely.
you do?
Then,
How do you start your morning? Do you do that in the morning, or what do you do?
well, I pray.
Oh, you do.
I pray, and so I like I mean, I do this with my daughter too. Like, what are you grateful for? We do that like every night.
Yeah.
And so I think when I first started doing that, especially when things were really, my dad was really sick, and things were really bad. It was harder, but now like the longer I've done it, I've probably there is more. Just there's more to be grateful for now. That's obvious, but I've also gone through a couple of like rough experiences while I've been doing this, and I have faith that will shape me in a way that makes the experience worth it. So now even if I'm going through something bad, I'm grateful for that, which I didn't think I would get to that because I was sick and angry and like I never got resentful. My dad taught me not to be resentful for being sick, but I was mad at like the universe. Like, why me? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
I was angry for a long time, and I've completely gotten rid of that.
That's a huge accomplishment. That's a huge accomplishment. That's like, that sounds like something close to peace of mind in a way. I mean, I don't have anything like that, but I certainly try to practice. I pray too, and I never thought I would.
Yeah?
And I'm new to that.
Do you do what you're grateful for? Or what you want?
Yes, I say thank you. I don't ask for anything. I try not to ask for anything. What I try to do is I try to say that everything I'm going to do is, so I do a couple of things now. Like when it comes to stand up, my whole life is trying to solve creative problems. So I work with brands. I have a team of really great comics, like a comedy think tank. And I work with brands and I come up with funny ways to sell their product.
That's fun. Okay.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk.
Yeah.
Because your after party thing is killer. I want to do we should do commercials for that.
Okay.
It's so. By the way, just to make a commercial for that, all bullshit aside, I told Nancy, I was talking about. I think she filmed me doing it because I was like, this shit works. This after party stuff. If I drink 2 glasses of wine now, I'm blind the next day. My head hurts so badly. I can't even drink. I'm like, I can't do it. If I drink whiskey, you can kill me. So I was with my friends and I drank all the wine and then we broke into tequila and then whiskey because I'm an asshole. And I was like, well, I'm going to be a dead man. I might not make it till tomorrow. And my kid's going to be waking me up. It's going to be a disaster. And I saw those after party things and I was like, I'm going to pop 2 of these. I swear to God, I forgot I drank. I didn't have anything. So whatever it's doing, I think it does something in your stomach it breaks down.
It breaks down acetaldehyde.
Which
helps
what?
you break it down. So like ethanol when you're drinking gets converted into acetaldehyde when it's metabolized.
Okay.
And that's what just poisons you the next day. And you have to slowly detox from acetaldehyde and it just breaks down acetaldehyde faster.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I know.
It's unbelievable. It absolutely works 100%. I was going to do a free ad for you. I was like, I want to do this free ad but I'm not a drinker, but I was like, this is something that Bert Kreischer or anybody who likes to drink should be, because it is incredible. It is simply the real deal. And it's called After Party, which is a great name for it.
Thank you.
How did you come up with it? Because you like to drink?
Okay, I was 20. Mm-hmm. I drank way too much in university. So I was really sick. I was on a whole bunch of medication. And as soon as I drank, I was like, I'm alive.
Yes.
Like I just didn't feel alive. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I drank way too much. And the hangovers were like,
beyond.
In bed until 10 p.m. dead. And I was just a mess. And so I was in bed one day. I was 20. I was in bed one day and I was like, it's 20. I think it was 2012 or something. 2011. And I was like, there's got to be a hangover cure. Like, what? It's 2011. We've been drinking forever. Like, where's the hangover cure? And I started researching and I found this like herb that's used in Japan and has been used in like Asia forever.
Guys, that's herb is Canadian for herb.
What, you say herb?
Yeah,
oh, there's an H.
It's just for the American listeners.
Gosh, you're
sorry about that.
Bad as my husband.
So
I found these studies on rats, and they convinced me when I was 20. There's like one study where they pump rats full of alcohol, they put them in water and see which ones tread water the longest.
Wow.
Or make them go through a maze hungover to see which ones like shiver in the corner and which ones go to the end of the maze. There were a bunch of these studies, and if you used this dihydromycin, with alcohol, rats would perform as normal. And I was like, this is amazing. So then I was buying powder from China, this like dihydroamine from China, and figured out eventually that the dose you need is way higher than like what are in some supplements now. It's perfectly safe, like perfectly safe. They're using it in research on Alzheimer's. I wouldn't say that it has any effect there. I highly doubt it. But like they're researching it. It works.
It doesn't just work. It works completely is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh no, it'll help. It doesn't help. For me, it worked completely. Like it was astonishing.
Yeah.
And my wife seconds that because she tied one on because she's been breastfeeding with a baby and she took a night to just get crazy because she had pumped and she took that shit and it was like, I can't believe this.
Yeah. I know. It should be in every corner store. Like if you drink and go to a bar, they should give it to you. It just helps you detoxify alcohol so you don't get as poisoned when you drink. It's just a good thing. I've been advertising it on Instagram and people are like, oh, you're encouraging alcoholism. I was like, I'm encouraging detoxing so you're not as poisoned. But nobody believes it. Yeah. And also, you were talking earlier about people like shilling out things on the internet, being like, this is how you become a millionaire, or buy this supplement. Yeah. And I like watch my ads and I'm like, I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it.
Well, I don't sell anything, and I and obviously I'm not taking any money for after party, but I'm happy to be your spokesman on that because that I'm telling you it works. It's just incredible.
That's so funny. I have a friend. My dad has a friend, Greg Hurwitz, that I gave him. He was the only person who believed me when I was 20. I was going to all my 20-year-old friends, being like, I found a cure, and they're just like, so you found Kay, Mikhaila.
So this was all your research. You just basically went. You were like
like 12 years ago.
Amazing.
Like a long time ago. And then none of my friends believed me, except for one of my dad's friends who really likes vodka. He's written like Orphan X, a bunch of best-selling novels, and he's been giving it out to all his friends too. He's like, this is amazing. Okay. But like, it's just every so often. So anyway,
Nancy
no
brought
hangover.
me some in Miami too. She brought me a bottle and I was like, that's where I was talking about it. It's really, funny. Really great. Yeah. I'm going to drink tonight. So I'm taking it. I'm I wanted to have dinner with you guys, but I have to.
Next time we're in LA.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've got ads on the website though that are like, oh, I was trying to drink less because the hangovers were so bad, but now I can drink whenever I want. I was like, are these the ads?
We got to do better ads for you.
These are the reviews. I was like, uh-oh.
No, we got to do better ads for you. Let's, I have some ideas for you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to charge you, but I'll come up with some funny ideas.
Oh, that's perfect.
Because what you want to do with something like After Party is you want to make sure first of all, it works. So you've got to do it like, there's a way to advertise without looking like you're advertising. Like you don't want to be like, what you're trying to do is solve a problem. People wake up hungover. That's a fact. This stuff works. That's a scientifically measurable fact. So there are much better ways to go about doing this. I can tell you.
Yeah, perfect.
When the cameras aren't rolling.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
If Bryan has convinced you to give After Party, glistening right here, a shot, check it out. It's on Amazon and it's at fullerhealth.com. And like he said, it really works. Here it is in all of its glory. So yeah, check it out. Leave me a review so I know what you think. I read them all. I think they're hilarious. I hope you're enjoying this episode.
So stand up. So we've got a couple things to do. Advertise After Party without looking like we're advertising. You're going to do stand up. Maybe you'll come to Nashville. June 14th, 15th, 16th. I don't know what you're doing then, but we could probably. All you have to do is tell a story.
Yeah, I think I could do that part. Like I've opened my dad's shows, and usually I try to get people to laugh too.
What do you do? How do you open the shows?
It's like 8 to 10 minutes of talking, and I try to make it relevant to whatever he's speaking about.
That's great.
So some of it's.
I was supposed to go to one of his. We were emailing, and I was supposed to go to one of his talks, and. When he was going through his hellish time, I emailed him. I don't think I had the right email. I don't know.
Oh, that or he didn't respond.
But I'm sure your dad. But I got your dad. So your dad has my old agent, Justin.
Oh, I love Justin.
Yeah, he was my agent. That's who I put your mom in touch with Justin, because my agent called me and goes, I want to represent him, and so I talked to your mom, and then that's how it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Small world.
Yeah. So you tour with him periodically.
Yeah, I did but then I've got so many, like launching Peterson Academy and
God, that's so cool.
doing
Is that
the podcast
here in Arizona?
No, it's in Miami. We used to live in Miami, so the studio filming everybody's in Miami, and the team's in Miami, but the team's all over the world. Like we have somebody who's coding in Germany, somebody else in Europe. A bunch of the people have moved here now.
Peterson Academy. And can you tell me a little bit about what it's going to be? It's going to be like a curriculum and stuff?
Yeah, there's a curriculum we're launching. I think we're going to be launching with 17 or 18 courses from people that are in like Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, like good, Stanford, good professors, very interesting courses.
I'm so all over this.
But the part I'm excited about, I think, is we've built a social media platform on it. So you have the course, you can comment underneath. It's kind of like YouTube-esque, except there's a transcript. You can click around the transcript. It'll bring you to that part in the lecture. You can take notes. So there's that part of the app. But then there's a social media part where you can keep track of like scores on tests. But you also have a profile and a feed. You can message people and DM people. So I'm hoping it'll also turn into at least a community where there are no trolls because it's paid. No one's going to pay to be a troll. Like no trolls, maybe higher brow, won't be infiltrated by China.
I don't think there'll be trolls really because, it takes effort and trolls never put in the effort. Like to actually educate yourself.
No, no trolls, no bots either.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
We'll see what it'll turn into.
I'm convinced I'm convinced that your dad gets bots. So my friend took a picture. My friend's pretty well known, and he took a picture with your dad, and he was like, I got a bunch of like people, negative comments, and I went to the profiles, and they didn't have any followers. They were literally just bots.
Was this on X?
Instagram.
This was on Instagram?
Instagram, yeah. But he was like, these aren't even real people. They're not even, so there's just mischief makers who just do stuff like that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
At all.
But that's okay. Like your dad said, every time he says something and the social justice warriors come at him, his Patreon grows by like 20 grand. It's like, all right, cool. Keep paying me, bitch.
That really was happening.
That's beautiful. Hate sells. I think Rogan, when he went through his stuff, that he got 2 million extra subscribers on Spotify.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, that controversy. People were like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Because we know what you're doing.
I'm so sick of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Reputation destruction is really easy. And hopefully, and the problem with reputation destruction is some hack journalist, some activist can write one article about you. Because remember, somebody gets a story, you get a statement. Somebody can tell a story about you or whatever. So a hack journalist who's an activist writes an article about you. And what happens is the corporate money dries up because they get scared. So they all pull back. So they can attack your livelihood. They can ruin your career. And until corporations start believing in due process and trying to look at real evidence, you're always going to have this problem. You have monsters like P. Diddy, and he deserves what he gets. I'm sorry. If you have somebody telling the same, let's just take Me Too. If you have a bunch of women telling the same story, come on now. They're not all making it up.
Yeah.
They're not. They don't know each other. So you're a scumbag. Scumbags. And I always say too that those kind of people that get they might have like 15 women come out against them. They were also scumbags in every other aspect of their life. Mm-hmm. Then you find out that they screwed up everybody in business. You're like, you're a scumbag.
Yeah, it's not just one. Yeah. We learned that. We were talking about like how people aren't necessarily just good. We found out from like painful experience that people who lie too about small things.
They lie about the big things.
It's everything.
That's that great when Bertolucci was shooting Marlon Brando in Last Tango in Paris. The fucking Italians are so hilariously dramatic. I could not capture him because he was too big for the camera. Sometimes you have to sit back because it's too much. So he was bigger than life, and even the lens of the camera, no matter what I did, I could never capture his essence, his power, his magnification. It's like so fucking great. The legend of Brando.
Have you seen? Okay, what was he in? What's the Italian movie he was in? Like the main movie, was it The Godfather?
Yeah.
Is it that one?
Godfather 1 and God. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think I've seen 2. I don't think I've seen either of those movies.
Last Tango in Paris Godfather 1, Godfather 2. I mean, those are the movies. On the Waterfront. I mean, he was just incredible. I mean, you got to see him in Streetcar Named Desire. Night of the Iguana. Woo, bro. Marlon Brando was, in many ways, he changed everything when it came to acting. And here's why. Because he was the first person to talk the way a real person talks. When you studied theater, you always learned how to drop your jaw, and you studied Alexander technique, and you came out as an actor, of course, and you did things that were rather large and grandiose. And Brando said, that's not how I talk, though, and he was the first guy to mumble, make you reach.
I didn't know that.
And that was the first thing. And the second thing he was just sexy. Like, he was absolutely obscenely, he was sensual. He was carnal. I mean, women, and of course gay men, and even straight men got uncomfortable because he was so beautiful. He was such an animal. When he walked on stage in the West End, when they were performing Streetcar Named Desire in the 50s, okay? When they were doing that, and he came in muscular, he was lifting weights. Somebody lifted weights, built like a brick shit house, sweating. And he walked on stage. They thought in the theater, these hoity-toity British people who went to the theater, who came from a long lineage of aristocracy, they thought that a drunk stagehand had wandered on stage, and I'm not kidding. He was so astonishing. So raw and animalistic, and all those women were like, I want to have sex with that guy right now. And all the men were uncomfortable. And he was so undeniable. And when he took his bows, there was screaming. There was screaming in the audience. The way Elvis had done to those young teenage girls.
Yeah.
That's what was going on. Nobody had done that before. That he was revolutionary. There's that famous story about Brando where, Stella Adler, his teacher, he was probably 17, 18, whatever he was. And Stella Adler said to the class, here's an acting exercise, everyone. You're chickens in a hen house right before a nuclear weapon hits. And so everybody's like, bok, 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 run around, bok, bok. And Brando was just sitting in his chair, not moving. And after she was done, she said, what were you doing? And he said, laying an egg. And she said, but there was a nuclear missile about to hit. And he says, what does a chicken know about nuclear fusion? So he was just, he was just a genius.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, the closest thing I've got to a Streetcar Named Desire is the Simpsons version of it.
Oh, no. You have to watch the Streetcar Named Desire. It changed everything. There is no Brando. I mean, there's no De Niro or Pacino without Brando. These were the young actors watching him going, what the fuck? Like, he was a male sex symbol, but like the first guy to take his shirt off, the first guy to punch a door.
Oh,
he was
cool.
dangerous.
Okay,
he was
okay.
dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah. He was dangerous, man. He was unpredictable. He was what? Method. The first guy to say, I'm going to actually try to live this.
Oh.
Yeah. No one did that. I'm going to be that character. I'm going to sweat like that character. I'm going to smell like that character. I'm going to be that character. I'm going to wear a dirty t-shirt. I'm going to really be that guy. My hands look like they've been working on something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I might do that tonight.
You have to.
I've been trying to convince my husband to watch older movies.
He's hard to convince. That's an important one.
Yeah, okay.
And then in Night of the Iguana, when he looks at the woman and says, I can burn a woman down. That was radical. What? I can burn a woman down. And everybody's like, oh. And he had this, I think, a snakeskin jacket on. And everybody back then was like, that's outrageous. We'll go to church right now. Who do you burn a woman down? And she was all bunched up and she tore her. That was, Tennessee Williams was a gay man who was a closeted gay man who was writing all those plays. So Marlon Brando was his fantasy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Tennessee Williams is the great playwright. He was writing poems. He worked in a shoe factory and he would write poems on the shoes. And then he'd put them in the shoes, never to be seen again because they were this side up.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you get all this information out of books? Is this just from reading?
I'm just an actor, so I studied it. You know, I was just around it. I don't know. I'm just old.
Oh, it's fun.
I got a lot of useless information in my head.
No, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's great.
I like romance. I think romance is I think there are two things that are very, very rare, two commodities that are very rare. One is adventure and the other is intimacy. And, you know, those are the two things we stay alive for, like not knowing what's going to happen next, but doing it anyway, right? And then intimacy is everything. Like, I mean, we stay alive for those moments. Humor, of course, but humor is also a form of intimacy. When you're laughing together and you're laughing at something, those are the moments you remember. Those are the moments that bond you with somebody.
Yeah.
And
why has that gotten? I mean, do you think part of the reason intimacy has gotten lost is because the role between like male and female has been so blurred?
You could say that, but I think intimacy has always been such a rare commodity, and maybe part of it's because if you try to get it, it's like a tiger in the tall grass. It's like a little bit like it's like this. It's like I see it when it's in the corner of my eye. You know, it's always clearing its throat. It's always over there, but when I try to find it, when I try to look at it, it disappears. You know, intimacy is one of those things that has to happen. It's such a beautiful, happy accident. And I think that's part of what is so bonding about going through something hard together, because sometimes you really need somebody. When you really need someone in that boat with no paddle in the middle of the ocean and you can't see land, and you're really clinging on to somebody, that's a bonding experience. That's probably one of the hidden gifts in destruction. Right?
That's very true.
Yeah. And so I think that intimacy, it's lost so easily in a relationship. It's lost so damn easily. And that's why I think a relationship is like a garden that you have to constantly tend to. You know, and something happens in relationships too where intimacy gets real awkward, because what it is it's a loss of power. And you know, you start competing with each other when you have children in a relationship. You got less sleep than I did. You sleep more than I do. I had to be up. Fuck that, man. Fuck off. You know, it's like you can't get into that. And it's really easy to, because what happens is it creeps into like even initiating sex or initiating like that thing, cuddling, becomes, I'm not going to be the one who initiated it. I always initiate it, or whatever it might be. And then you start counting. And you start keeping score. And that's the enemy. That's the enemy. It's hard, man. Have you ever seen that? Like, I think sometimes I wonder, like...
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but I also think sometimes, like, there are people that wear their hearts on their sleeve, right? There are people that just... They're not afraid to look weak and bad. And... there's something I think we fall in love sometimes with the expression in someone's eye. I don't know how to prove that, but like sometimes I'll see something, like what I love about my wife is her courage. She's fearless, and she's so good at being grateful. And I think that's incredible. I love that. And then sometimes you'll see another thing in someone's eye. I'm drawn to courage. And I'm also drawn to hunger. You know, sometimes I see in someone's eyes someone who has hunger. They have. You have that, by the way.
Thank you.
You have that. Yeah, you have a lot going on with you because you've been through a lot, and I love that. I love seeing someone who has that sort of that expression of hunger, that expression of gratefulness, because you know that comes with also like stark terror, doesn't it? Like, you know, like it's like you don't know when it's going to go away. And part of gratefulness, gratefulness is being like, dude, I'm going to enjoy this now because I know it's going to go away, and I can't handle it if it does. You know, when I got MadTV, I was working as a temp, and I was living in Hoboken, New Jersey, over a Chinese restaurant with a roommate. And I remember thinking to myself, if I don't get this part, it was 5 auditions. And I said, if I don't get this part, I might die. Like, I don't think I can handle not getting it. I don't think I can handle having my hopes dashed. I don't think I can handle it. I don't think I can get back on a plane and go back to sweaty Hoboken, New Jersey. I want to be here in LA so badly. I want to be a star so badly. I want to be an actor so badly. I want to make money as an actor. So I want to be successful. So all these things, you know. And I don't even know where I was going with that, but that's something that you should always keep close to you. You should always feel like you should always have that hunger, right? I mean,
I think I get irritated too quickly at people who don't have it. Like when I started. Well, when I got out of the whole autoimmunity, like dying from an autoimmune disorder thing with diet.
That's
like
kind of a fucking thing.
Yeah, left
when
that.
I was dying from an autoimmune disease.
When that ended, like my life kind of opened up and I was like, oh, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. I was like, I can get through anything, who knows? And a lot of my friends that I was friends with at the time, because I changed it like completely, you know, I got healthy, so that was a big change, but it also changed my perspective of like, who knows what's out there that could be accomplished. And a lot of people I talk to, I could see, and I think some people can see this, but you have a friend and there's a bunch of things that they're doing wrong that's making their life worse. And you go, hey, you could just fix these 3 things and wow, like your life would be pretty good.
But
are you going to do that? And they're like, nah.
No way.
Can you not see that can you not see the different paths?
No, because they can't do that. Can you not see that? No, they can't do that. You know why they can't do that? Because if they do that, then they have to take responsibility for their potential. Like you can't, you have to have parachutes. You can't like get rid of all the things holding you back. Because if you do that, then you might be who you're supposed to be. And that takes a lot of responsibility. Fuck that. I'd rather, you know, I don't want to be a champion. The crown's too heavy. I'll be 3rd place. That's cool. It still comes with a lot of stuff and not as much attention. I've suffered from that.
No way.
Yes.
Why?
I don't suffer with that with comedy. Like I want to be the best.
Okay.
I'm ruthless with that. I want to be better than everybody. And you know, and I think I have the potential to be as good as anybody, period. So I'm ruthless with that. But everything else, you know, I don't know.
You probably can't have that in all aspects of your life though.
Oh yeah, I'm not competitive. I said that to my dad. I go, I'm not competitive at all. My dad went like this. He did the slow turn. He went, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, I'm not. He goes, but you know, when it comes to, I want the most out of life.
Yeah, why not?
I want my next special to be the best thing that anybody's seen. Oh, you know, like Bono was saying that about fucking, but I really do. Like Bono was saying that about, he goes, why don't we just try to make the best album ever?
Yeah.
And they laugh. He goes, no, I'm serious. Let's try. Like I'm trying to do that with False Gods. I really am. I'm trying to literally carve every fucking inch of that thing, and I want it to be the best thing. Like when I want to be able to die the next day. I want to get off stage and die and be like, I did it, and just die. Like I'll be fine. You know that idea.
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, you know that idea. Like you know Fiona Apple. Remember her? She's a great singer and writer. She was Artist of the Year back in. Like, she said when you write an album and you feel like you can never write another song again, that you're completely empty. That's when you know you're done. And I love that. I love that. Like you feel like a hollow shell. Like you're like, oh, I'll never be. Oh, I'm done. I've said everything I could say. But then if you just keep showing up, somehow it might take a year, but somehow you find more. And you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God the music has not stopped. I had to. It's like you're taking a stone and trying to get some water out of it. You're like, nothing. You're repeating yourself. You're derivative. You're a piece of shit. You're lying. And then you get something. You're like, oh wait, I think this is an idea I can run with. You know. And then 2 years later, maybe you have an hour.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. You should be on this journey. I'm gonna help you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm down.
Yeah.
I think I have some stuff. I mean, I've been doing the openings.
I don't think you have something. I know you have some stuff.
I have a book. I've been writing a book.
You do?
Yeah. It's not ready yet.
What's it about?
It needs a lot of editing. Going through like chronic illness and then having that go away with diet and then dad getting famous and then what happened with him. And so it's like a memoir. But I never felt like I could end it because my life was so shitty for so long. So dad would be like, how's the book going? I was like, are you joking? Can you imagine if the ending was now? Like I can't do that. So I feel like I have
Maybe
to
it's
take
to be continued.
that's
You're
true.
still young.
And that some people told me that. It was like, maybe it's multiple books. But I feel like if I end it right now when things are good, I could end it. And then if something else happens, then write something else later.
Yeah, maybe the book maybe the last page is you just writing and it just kind of trails off onto the desk. It's like, just a straight line. Like, anyway, to be continued.
Yeah.
To be continued. Don't even finish continued. To be continued.
To be continued.
Like,
Yeah.
Because it's true.
Yeah.
It really is. Like the one thing that I'll say that, at 57, like it's always a process of discovery. It's never over because now I have my kids. What's really cool about getting older is you become less a part of the equation. Like I have a lot of other people in my life whose happiness is more important than my own, but that doesn't mean that I'm not seeking fulfillment. But part of that fulfillment might be the fact that I'm of service. I'm serving. I'm not taking. I'm just giving.
What's your favorite thing about having kids?
Watching them. First, I believe they come through you, and I try to remind myself that they don't come from me, but through me. And I think just having a creature whose welfare and development is more important than my own. And so what it does is it takes me completely out of myself, completely out of my problems, and I'm able to focus on them. So teaching my son how to box or how to do jujitsu, or he's wrestling now as a wrestler. So teaching him the things that I know about wrestling, like the little details, and watching him use that on another 12-year-old and it working. Yesterday I was explaining Zeno, the philosopher, to him. It was so awesome. My son is so funny. I was teaching him like the philosopher Zeno, and he actually got it. He got what that philosopher was talking about, and he was interested in it. And then yesterday he sent me a text. He goes, "Dad, I just want to say thank you for your help." And I wrote, this is at 9 at night, and I wrote back, "I love you, buddy. That's what dads are for." And then he wrote, "And by the way, I'm gay." And I wrote, "What?" And he goes, "Oops, I meant I'm great. That's what I meant. I'm great." And I go, "No, I'm going with the first one." That's how funny he is. So it's like I got this little comedian in my fucking house. He's so funny, dude. He didn't do his homework and he lied about it. And I go, "You lied about not doing it?" He goes, "I did lie." And I go, "Really?" I go, "You seem okay with that." And he goes, "Well, because, if I'm honest, you'll get mad at me." I go, I'll never be mad if you're honest. I get mad when you lie. Why didn't you do your homework? And he goes, "Can I be honest?" I go, "No, I want you to lie again so I can pull your head off your spine. Tell me what,
Yeah.
He goes, "All right, I'll be honest. As long as you don't promise you won't be mad." I go, "I'm not going to be mad. Why did you lie?" He goes, "Well, the truth is I didn't do my homework because I don't give a fuck."
Oh my God.
And he could see my face change, and he knew he might die. And he goes, "Hold on, before you get mad, let me check something. Hold on, let me see something. No fucks in there either." And I was like, "That's funny." And then he made a fake phone call, and he goes, "I called the fuck store. They're closed." I was like, "These are good jokes. They're good jokes." Like, he just lives to make me laugh. So it's that. I guess that's fun to watch him kind of find his way in the world.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Sounds like a smart 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Do you have, as we could wrap up with this, is there like one lesson that you want to instill on your children?
Yeah.
There's something that comes to mind.
Yeah, my one lesson, I suppose you could say a couple things. One is have a sense of humor about life and don't take yourself too seriously, and learn how to be self-resilient. Those are all, blah, blah, blah. But I think I might tell them to stay close to things you can't measure. That's what I would say. I would say to understand that there is more to life than that which you can measure, and that which you can see and feel and touch and taste. And I think that's a very important thing to understand. I think that we are creatures that have imagination, and imagination is where greatness comes from. I'll never see infinity. I'll never know or see what a negative integer is, but I know it exists. There have been plenty of mathematicians that dream up a theorem that bears no relevance to the material world. And then they die, and 120 years later, when they're trying to put a rover on Mars, some astrophysics says, hey, this equation that was conceived in 1896 bears direct relevance. And the only way we're going to get that rover on Mars is using this equation. That's the stuff that makes me believe in God. That, you are, you may not be the originator of what your expression is, but you can certainly be an antenna to it. You can certainly be a channel for it. And it's up to you to figure out how to open yourself up to be a channel to something original. And so that's what I would say to them. I would say your job if you're lucky, your job might be to be somebody who's in the business of original self-expression. That's certainly what I try to do. So when I talk about being a comedian or an author, it's really about trying to write something that surprises me and that moves me. Because if it does that to me, then I surprised myself. And that came from somewhere I didn't know I had. And I may not have had it. Maybe I channeled it from something much, much higher than myself. That's where I start. That's my conversation on the idea of God. That's where I start my conversation.
I like that.
Yeah.
You can't, I think knowing that you can't rationalize everything is very important, especially for people who try to rationalize everything. You can't. Not everything. It's like some things exist that aren't rational.
Yeah, and one of the things that I got from your father, partially, it's not that I hadn't been exposed to the idea, but that there's a great deal of meaning and value in suffering. And that you will not escape suffering. You will not escape chaos. It comes for all of us. And no one gets out of this thing alive. And suffering is a bigger opportunity than success is. Success has this sort of idea. It's, success, reaching that thing that you aimed for, which I've done. I drew a line through everything I ever came to LA for. It has this stagnant quality. Once you're done, man, it has its own crisis that's built in. And, you better figure out something cosmic or something much bigger than yourself to fight for and to aim for. So those are all the things I tell my kids.
That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. It's really nice to meet you. I don't know why I'm holding the couch like this.
Yeah,
it's like I'm Samson.
The conversation is riveting.
It's riveting to me. I'm holding this. I hope you guys enjoyed that as the striations of my chest get worked. You and your husband are in phenomenal shape. I feel like I'm going to put that jacket back on. I don't like standing next to you guys. You look like you came out of like the Nordic. You look like you stepped out of an ice palace. Hello, and now the king and queen, Mikhaila. And what's your husband's name?
Jordan.
Jordan? Yeah, it should be Thor. Jordan/Thor. Yeah, what's his last name?
Fuller.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound like a hero's name, but you know what I mean. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.